Cities are humanity's greatest invention. And they're great because they allow a lot of people to live very closely together. Over 60% of people live in just 3% of the surface of the land on planet Earth. In the United States, over 80% of people live in a city, a village, a megacity. And the reason why cities are able to provide sustainable living for people in such confined spaces is because they deliver infrastructure and services that enable goods and services to travel efficiently. They provide safety and health and education. But things are changing, making it a lot harder for cities to be able to deliver those promises to the residents. Climate change is bringing extreme temperature variations, where winters are getting harsher, summers are getting warmer, and in a given season, temperature will go up and down more harshly. We're also starting to see changes in precipitation, where cities that had dependable access to water are becoming more desertic, and other cities are experiencing torrential downpours and a lot of water being poured in very short amounts of time, creating catastrophic damage. We also have demographic changes. Climate change, but also other economic drivers are producing migration into cities, and cities are growing really rapidly across the world, making people from different cultures and different languages having to live very closely to each other in ways that hadn't happened in millennia. So as we start thinking, how is it that we're going to start solving that puzzle and keep delivering services that make people thrive? We have to think outside of the box. And what better place to tap into than universities that have gathered the smartest people from all over the world and have them researching and thinking about extraordinary disciplines like the arts and humanities and social sciences and engineering, and make them, and most of these people live in cities as well. So what if the grad student that's walking around the quad has a brilliant idea that could make everyone across the planet live healthier and longer and in a more equal and vibrant way? That's why in 2015, the city of South Bend and the University of Notre Dame decided to sign a memorandum of understanding. And we did so with about 35 other city-university partnerships across the US. We launched the MetroLab network out of the White House, the Obama White House, with the goal that if we all pulled together, we could come up with better ideas that would make our city safer, more equitable, and if we all worked together as a giant laboratory, we could craft the mechanisms to keep delivering those services and that infrastructure that makes everyone thrive. And this followed a progression in our changing and the understanding of the relationship between the city and the university. So in the first stage, we think of residents as just like consumers of the services, right? We dispatch emergency medical services when people are ill. We provide drinking water. If there's a rowdy party, the next day we dispatch code enforcement to make sure that people have cleaned up. In the second stage, the university and the city are working like partners. The university understands that in order to attract top talent, they need to make places that people enjoy living in. So you build dorms and you make sure that there's economic investment in your city. And if the relationship is good, you make sure that the development is harmonious and that the universities and the cities are also creating benefit to the communities that were already in those cities, and that the development is respectful of the environment and the cultural diversity within those cities. But there's a third phase of city-university partnerships, where we start thinking, what is the opportunity for cities and universities to co-create those services that make everyone better off, including the people that live in those cities? So in 2005, the director of public works at the city of South Bend decided to start walking around the University of Notre Dame, asking people how is it that we could reduce the cost of $1 billion project that we had agreed to with the federal government to reduce emissions of combined wastewater and stormwater into the St. Joseph River. And he met a grad student at the time that was working on developing sensors that would be embedded in different places. So they decided to put sensors underneath manholes, and they placed 150 sensors across the city, and the process created a company that is now selling those services to a number of cities. But what was ingenious is that those 150 sensors were generating billions of data points, letting us understand how is it that sewage and stormwater move throughout these pipes. And in the process, they were able to understand a better, more optimal way of using the sewer system. So they eventually put in smart valves that lie within the combined sewer system that trade underused capacity in the sewer with pipes that are about to overflow. So using an economic algorithm, they trade and they price out the capacity in the sewer system, avoiding about 72% of the flow that used to go into the St. Joseph River. That's 1.3 billion gallons of water that was contaminated with E. coli that used to go into the river that now is safe. And you can see that South Bend has also gotten more precipitation in the past few years than it used to get. And even despite that increase in precipitation, we're still able to maintain that environmental compliance. There's some other research that came out of Carnegie Mellon, out of the same laboratory where the people that invented the autonomous vehicle were working on. And the idea here was, what happens if you mount a smartphone on the windshield of a car and you drive around and you're capturing all this video about the pavement? And you use the best of machine learning to try to classify and understand the quality of the pavement so that you're not relying only on a resident that calls after their tire exploded, after hitting a pothole, to be able to understand the quality of the pavement. And again, they also launched another company. But what's interesting is that the data that they generated gives us a map that is real time about the condition of the pavement across the city. And again, as we see the temperature variate more and more during the winter time, eroding the quality of our roads, we're able to see, and the community is able to see, the condition of the pavement and allow us to make decisions about how is it that we prioritize the scarce public dollars to deliver more equitable and great services. Some other great research that occurred in the past couple of years at the University of Chicago focused on using administrative data from police departments to be able to understand which of those police officers that were out serving the public were at a higher risk of having adverse interactions with the public that they're supposed to serve. And using data about complaints, about officer-involved shootings, and about a number of other aspects of policing, they're able to develop predictive algorithms that enable people that manage police departments to understand how is it that they can intervene and create systems of support around these officers to avoid tragedies. And in the process, also saving billions of dollars worth of liability that comes to these cities. So as I stand here today and I look at the audience, I can't help to wonder who is going to have the next brilliant idea that's going to change the way that we manage our infrastructure or we deliver services to make a sustainable planet. Thank you.